Prince William, our future king, a man driven by passion, honour and duty.
He believes in the monarchy. He believes it has a purpose in modern society.
A monarch in waiting, whose life has been shaped by service.
Diolch yn fawr Mirig.
This is his story, told through his words.
I've seen on many occasions over the years how this charity empowers and mobilises young people.
His speeches marking every step of an incredible life.
As a former air ambulance pilot myself, I've seen firsthand the difference trauma teams can make to those in need.
Everything that William has done has been preparing for the day when he ascends to the throne.
Through triumph.
This country had a conversation on mental health that for the first time was positive and truly national.
And tragedy.
Thank you so much.
This is the story of our next king, told through his most powerful speeches.
When we hear him speak, there is no doubt that this is a man who is ready to step up and take on that top job.
May 2023, and Prince William dutifully and passionately addresses the crowds at King Charles's coronation celebrations.
Good evening, Your Majesties. Good evening, Windsor.
In a special BBC production at Windsor Castle, after the majesty of the coronation, we had a very, very different atmosphere. Here was a music concert with some major artists playing. Prince William coming out to speak to the crowd and speak really personally and very heartfelt about what it meant to him seeing his father finally be crowned king.
I want to say a few words about my father and why I believe this weekend is so important. But don't worry, unlike Lionel, I won't go on all night long.
In William's address to the crowds and the millions watching via the BBC broadcast, he highlighted how important his father's years dedicated to duty had been both for him personally and the entire nation.
William was poignant, he was funny, he was personal. I mean, it was a really beautiful speech that he wrote.
My father's first words on entering Westminster Abbey yesterday were a pledge of service. It was a pledge to continue to serve. Because for over 50 years, in every corner of the UK, across the Commonwealth and around the world, he has dedicated himself to serve others, both current and future generations, and those whose memory must not be neglected.
Well, what a wingman William was in that moment. I mean, talk about bigging his father up. This is something that Charles had done for 50 years, waiting for the top job.
I think in making that sense of duty so apparent in his speech and sort of clearly outlining that as Charles's legacy was also William's way of acknowledging that duty is something that runs through the DNA of the House of Windsor and something that he will continue when it's his time.
When we look back at the footage of the BBC's coronation concert, we see William talking about his father in a real heartfelt manner. And this is something that was really important to William to do at the time, to give it more of a human angle.
Pa, we are all so proud of you. I commit myself to serve you all. King, country, and Commonwealth. God save the King.
William, now our confident monarch in waiting, has come a long way since his very first speech in 2008, marking the 40th anniversary of the homeless charity Centrepoint.
I feel very closely linked to Centrepoint. It is a charity with which both my mother and father became passionately involved. Indeed, it was while my mother was patron that Harry and I had our first contact with Centrepoint. I was much younger, better looking, and more naive back then. So I get a little giggle. But it began to open my eyes to the world that so many young London people face.
Well, of course, intense interest in William's first public speech and how telling it was Centrepoint, the place that he'd been brought to as a young teenager with his mother. And I think he not only spoke really eloquently, but from the heart as well.
Our visits with our mother ignited a deep and growing interest for the great work the charity does for the homeless.
This is definitely the kind of speech that William would have to get used to for the rest of his career. And it's amazing to see actually how good he was at this. He was very, very confident. He didn't kind of stutter or say and ah. And he's now incredibly confident at giving speeches like this.
I think we can see from the self-deprecating humour used in that speech that he's not afraid to have a laugh at himself. He knows the controversy that comes with aligning himself to an issue such as homelessness, because a lot of people would say, how on earth could a prince, a future king, a man born into such insane wealth have any concept of what it is to be homeless in the UK and beyond?
William's connection with Centrepoint dated back 17 years, but he took further radical steps to prove his credentials in becoming a patron of the charity.
Prince William decided to sleep rough for one night, to see what it was like for a young homeless person on the streets. And that's how seriously he takes his role. He was trying to show that he's sort of not your average heir to the throne, that he was prepared to do things a bit differently, prepared to get his hands dirty.
William says he cannot even begin to imagine what it must be like to sleep rough night after night, but says his experience has deepened his understanding of homelessness.
This absolutely reminded me of the work of Princess Diana. This is absolutely something that she would have done.
There is something that he can try and affect change on the ground. It's his crusade, but also his mother's legacy.
The lasting impact Princess Diana had on William can still be felt through his personality and through his speeches.
When we see William's down-to-earth nature, we are looking at the legacy of his mother.
And his birth marked a resurgence of interest in the royal family, something which has remained insatiable throughout the prince's lifetime.
William was born right into the spotlight because Diana, William's mother, had become such a global megastar. Anything to do with her was fascinating. He entered at the beginning of Di Mania and he was there right through it.
As the prince grew, the world's press was right there capturing every big day.
That first day at school is a nervous moment for anyone, even when Mum and Dad have come along to hold your hand. It seemed half of Fleet Street were there too, to record this small moment of history.
She told me in one of our many meetings, long meetings, she said, I am determined that these boys will be brought up in a way no other royal princes have been brought up. Queuing, for example, I'm going to make them queue. And she said, William's got very, very good at queuing. She said to me, I've worked in a way, they have work days and play days. And on work days, they do have to dress up in a suit and tie and behave like royal prince. But on play days, they can put on their baseball cap and they can go go-karting.
You know, if they wanted to play conkers, Diana would climb up the conker tree and get conkers for them. I mean, it was fantastic.
William's was quite clearly not a typical royal childhood. And in the ITV documentary, Diana, Our Mother, Her Life and Legacy, he spoke on the impact of having his mum guiding and shaping his upbringing.
She understood that there was a real life outside of palace walls, and she wanted us to see it from a very young age, and really understood some of the real problems in life that, you know, you can pass you by very easily, particularly in this situation.
She was adamant that her two boys may be growing up within this very unique family and within a palace. But they also needed an appreciation of just how privileged and fortunate they were.
Famously, she took him to see the homeless. She took him to see the sick in hospital. I remember her telling me she'd smuggled William and Harry into a hospital through the back door to see someone he was dying of AIDS, actually. She did make this extraordinary effort to show them, face to face, what being underprivileged and in difficulty and in trouble looks like.
She introduced all sorts of things into William's young life that are now common among other generations of the royal family, but at that time it was groundbreaking.
The strong bond both William and younger brother Harry shared with their mother was captured in magical scenes of them reuniting on board the royal yacht Britannia.
She told me that I shower my boys with love and cuddles because I didn't have any as a child, which was very sad to hear.
Diana's love for both her sons is again on show, with her having fun and sharing a thrilling moment with them on a theme park ride.
So she said, I just give them great big kisses. And William now is of an age, says, oh, Mum, stop it, she said. But I know really that they love it.
It's about to confirm from Paris the reports that Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident.
August the 31st, 1997 was the day William and Harry's lives changed forever. A day that is seared on their souls and in their hearts. Someone you love, someone you adored, so suddenly, so cruelly, in the middle of the night, far away in another country, for her to be dead. How could you put that in words?
The teenage prince and his younger brother were staying at Balmoral with the late Queen on that fateful night. In the ITV documentary Diana, Our Mother, Her Life and Legacy, William gave an emotional insight into the very private and heartbreaking moment he was woken by his father to be told the devastating news.
There's nothing like it in the world. It really isn't. It's completely and utterly, it's like an earthquake just run through the house and through your life and everything. It's just, your mind is completely split. And it took me a while for it to sink in.
At Diana's funeral, the world watched as William and his brother Harry walked behind their mother's coffin, supported by their father, grandfather and uncle, for the last mile of the procession to Westminster Abbey.
I remember the pair walking behind the coffin on that Saturday, and the clip-clop of the hooves, it was quiet, the crowds were quiet, and everybody around me was sobbing their hearts out. The photographer from the mirror next to me was crying, but they just walked and didn't move. They just did their duty behind their mother, and that day will stick in my life forever.
Despite the devastating circumstances he faced, at just 15, William showed great courage to keep resolute, something he put into words in the intimate and insightful Diana's 7 Days BBC documentary.
When you have something so traumatic as the death of your mother when you're 15, it'll either make or break you. And I wouldn't let it break me. I wanted it to make me. I wanted her to be proud of the person I would become.
He was saying it wasn't going to define him for the rest of his life. He wasn't going to allow it to sort of completely dominate and perhaps impair his life for many years to come. I think William was a mentally strong young man, and it was because of that strength that he was able to handle his grief.
Coming up, William is about to turn 18 at Eton College, and we see the very beginnings of the young prince combining his passion for travel with a duty to serve others.
Can you tell us where you're going on the next stage of your gap year?
I'm off to Chile with Raleigh International, doing an expedition with them.
Although all sorts of toffs went on gap years to all sorts of crazy places, actually for King Charles, he really believed it was really important for his son, because he knew better than anyone that your gap year is your last ever chance to have freedom.
William, our future king, an incredible life founded on passion, honour and duty.
Hello everyone. Growing up in my family gives you a certain sense of history. I'm simply the latest in a line that can be traced back generations.
His words have the gravitas of a future king behind them. When he speaks, people listen.
To commemorate Prince William's coming of age, rare access was given at Eton College. This incredibly personal footage captured him learning key life skills. It revealed him to be a pretty regular teenager who, despite the trauma of losing his mother, was embracing this next chapter of his life.
Can I just ask you, William, when you're cooking, what are you preparing?
Paella with chicken, rice, garlic and beans. That's correct, I don't know. I'm just following the orders there.
Are you pretty confident that it's going to come out okay?
Yeah, it usually comes out, even though Ned and I are the worst cooks in the world.
No, we're the best.
It was so touching to see William cooking. First of all, because he was wearing a white bow tie, which is quite unusual. But unlike, you'd expect Eton, he was just kind of mucking in, cooking some chicken, doing a terrible job of it. But being teased by his classmate and his housemate, which is a sign that, nobody was kowtowing to him just because he was the famous royal.
This is such an extraordinary thing. Not only is William cooking, but the dish he's cooking as well, paella. I mean, it just tells you straight away that he is part of a new generation of the monarchy. This is him embracing world cuisine, cooking for himself.
In the film, William is doing his best to cook for his fellow Etonians, but it isn't long before the supper prep descends into disarray.
Do something quickly!
What's so fascinating about this is that it shows William the real person. He can roll with the punches and he doesn't panic. Under pressure, it's all a bit chaotic. But actually, he keeps his cool.
William had begun life at the elite boarding school at age 13.
Well, Eton is not only a phenomenal school with incredible attributes for people who go there, but it's absolutely renowned for bringing up the aristocracy of Britain. And this was why it was chosen to be the perfect landscape for Prince William to grow as a person, as a future king.
Across his school career, William had clearly immersed himself in Eton's rich history, with the footage to mark his 18th birthday showing him to be relaxed on the school grounds, a studious pupil, and also a keen athlete with a talent for several different sports.
So this was a really extraordinary moment for the British public because nobody had had this kind of access to William in his own world before, where he got to be separate from the monarchy, separate from family, and really forge his own identity in an environment where he wasn't necessarily going to be treated like this future king, because, everybody left, right and centre was a lord or an earl or something like that.
He was so gorgeous. Prince William looked amazing. He had his mum's floppy blonde hair. I was just a teenager at the time, so I was completely besotted.
Full of confidence, a great smile. He was wearing this remarkable Union Jack waistcoat. I think it was a nod to the Austin Powers film, which had just started coming out at that stage.
And it was the beginning of William as an individual royal.
Eton helped shape William's formative years. But it was clear in doing so, the boarding school hadn't rolled out the red carpet for the young prince.
William would have had a very similar experience to other Eton boarders. I mean, that was the whole point.
William was in completely normal blocks at Eton, and they didn't really give him any special treatment. And he was among his tribe, which is, incredibly privileged men.
This was a chance for him to get out of the palace and into a more ordinary situation. I mean, obviously completely extraordinary to a normal state school pupil in Britain, but at the same time, he was treated the same as the other boarders there. I mean, he had the most unimaginable tragedy partway through when he lost his mother. And you would think that going off to Eton might be a very difficult thing to experience at a time like that. But actually, in some ways, I think, Eton overall was perfect for William.
After finishing his exams, William faced the freedom of a year off to see the world, but not before speaking at his first, somewhat informal press conference, accompanied by his father.
I remember the day very well. We were summoned to Highgrove to have a little chit-chat, little catch-up with William, who'd just come back from Belize. He'd been in the jungle with the army. It was the start of his gap year.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, Jim.
Could you tell us a bit about your time in Belize, first of all?
I was with the Welsh Guards on exercise in the jungle, just sort of training with them, as it were, seeing what they do and joining in with what they do, basically.
I gather you actually got your A-level results when you were in the depths of the jungle.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about that?
Well, I was in the middle of nowhere, so the base camp where I was staying was on top of the hill, and the only way to get the A-level results to me was by over the army net. The guys didn't want to use it, so I got a message saying that Dr. Gailey, my housemaster, was waiting for the message, so he said it was good news, so I raced back up and got it, so it was good.
Better than you expected? Better than you expected?
Yeah, it was good. I was glad what I got, yeah.
Luckily, he'd done very well. He's a clever boy. He was a clever boy. He was quite academic, quite uncharacteristically for a member of the royal family, academic. And I think he got an A, B and C.
Can you tell us where you're going on the next stage of your gap year?
I'm off to Chile with Raleigh International, doing an expedition with them. I wanted to do something constructive in my gap year rather than,
I could do quite a lot of work. But I thought this was a bit more of a way of trying to help people out and meet a whole range of different people from different countries, and at the same time helping people in remote areas of Chile.
Although all sorts of toffs went on gap years to all sorts of crazy places, actually for King Charles, he really believed it was really important for his son because he knew better than anyone that your gap year is your last ever chance to have freedom. And in terms of the kind of trip he went on to Rally International, literally every single toff in the whole country went on that. It was very, very expensive.
William was quizzed on how he was able to afford his far-flung adventure.
I raised myself about £5,500.
And did your father chip in as well?
You might have helped slightly. Not very much, so I chip in all the bloody time.
I think Charles actually broke any ice there was to be broken by bringing a bit of humour to the situation. And I think it showed a very relaxed atmosphere between the two of them. Good relationship, father and son.
William seemed really excited about going, although a little apprehensive, I think. And he knew he couldn't back out, of course, because once you've told the entire nation that you're going away for a year to do quite a lot of hard work, you can't flake out and go home at the end of the day after all.
William threw himself into his year abroad, flying more than 7,000 miles to the Chilean jungle to get stuck into the environmental project.
He wanted to really put some genuine hard work into his gap year and do quite physical labour as well. And he was a really strapping water polo champion at this point. He was very well built and he was very fit, and I think he wants to make use of that.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience he'll probably never have again, but he's working for charity, he's making a difference, and this was the moment that he got to see the power of that, and I think that's why his time in Chile was so important.
Coming up,
Catherine Middleton.
William finds his new passion, a future queen.
Big wide world out.
It's definitely like a fairy tale, meeting a prince, your prince, and then marrying him.
And the couple have the wedding of the century.
As they settle into the open-top carriage, she asks her new husband, "Are you happy?" and seems pleased with his response.
Prince William, a dutiful and passionate heir to the throne, who has grown and matured in front of the watching world.
I can do some of this. I can do some chunky side.
When he speaks, it's charming, it's amusing, and it means so much to the people of Britain.
In his next landmark interview, William is not alone. He is joined by someone very special who would change his life and the nation's forever.
When did you first set eyes on each other and what did you think?
Well, it's a long time ago now, Tom. I'm trying to rack my brain about it all. But we met at university at St Andrews, and we were friends for over a year first, and it just sort of blossomed from then on.
William broke his own golden rule, effectively, in that famous engagement interview with ITV News and Tom Bradby back in 2010, because he started talking about the romance. You know, here was William putting real flesh on the bones.
And it was a hugely significant moment. It was them telling the world for the first time about their love affair.
But how did it all begin? Studying on the east coast of Scotland would give William another chance to savour a relatively normal existence. But it was also here where his life would change forever. He met fellow art history student Kate Middleton when they were both just 19.
William's time at St Andrews University was extremely precious to him because an agreement had been reached with the media where he was to be left alone. And he relished that opportunity just to be William Wills. And he moved in with friends, Fergus Boyd, Olivia Bleasdale, and one Catherine Middleton, to a Victorian terrace house, a typical student home, nothing fancy, certainly a long way from the palaces he'd grown up in.
It was inside this modest student house where William's friendship with Catherine grew into their famous royal romance. Their closeness on display in this sunny student picture, showing them to be a happy, carefree couple. And in their ITV News interview, they revealed some surprisingly private details of the bond that developed between them while at university.
There's a story that goes the rounds that you had a picture of him on your wall as a
There
child.
wasn't just one, there was like 10, 20.
He wishes, no. No, I had the Levi's guy on my wall, not a picture of William, sorry. Sorry.
It was me and Levi's, honestly.
So in this exchange, you've got William teasing Kate over whether she had pictures of him on her wall.
She absolutely pushes back on that and says, no, it's the famous guy in the Levi's ad who takes off his jeans and sticks them in the laundrette. And William won't have it. And I think you get an idea a bit of their sort of joshing relationship in that just brief clip.
It's definitely like a fairy tale, meeting a prince, your prince, at university, and then falling in love with him, hanging out with him, and then marrying him. It literally is like a fairy tale come true.
After announcing their engagement, the public didn't have to wait long before William and Kate's big day arrived.
Around 1,900 people will receive invitations to attend the marriage ceremony here at Westminster Abbey. They'll be part of a very select few to walk through these doors just before 11 a.m. on April the 29th.
I remember the build-up to the wedding was amazing because we hadn't had a royal wedding of that magnitude for many decades. In fact, dare I say, since his father's wedding to his late mother. I remember the planning, I remember the rehearsals. I remember Kate would go out in the middle of the night to Westminster Abbey and there'd be rehearsals and things taking place.
William marrying Kate Middleton was the first time in, centuries that a future king had married a commoner. I mean, he could have had his pick of any blue-blooded aristocrat that he wanted. He happened to fall in love with a girl next door.
The day promised to be a wedding like no other.
There were networks from all around the world, and it was an incredible occasion. I mean, it was wonderful to report on because it was just such a happy, happy moment.
And it looks absolutely like the fairy tale wedding. I think there was a real sense of this being about the couple and the bringing of their two worlds together. So inside the Abbey, yes, you had overseas heads of state, but you also had lots of people that the couple knew, personal friends given really prominent positions in the Abbey, also people who Kate had known when she was growing up.
The glorious wedding went off without a hitch, with William not fluffing his most important line.
I, William Arthur Philip Louis.
I, William Arthur Philip Louis.
Take thee, Catherine Elizabeth.
Take thee, Catherine Elizabeth.
To my wedded wife.
To my wedded wife.
It all went to plan. It was a wonderful, wonderful occasion.
And approval there was plenty as the new princess emerged into spring sunshine on the steps of the Abbey. As they settle into the open-top carriage, she asks her new husband, "Are you happy?" and seems pleased with his response.
And also this wonderful, bright new chapter for William. The boy we'd seen grow up without his mother, now happy with his bride, with his lovely Kate.
Just over 2 years later, the eyes of the world were back on the newlyweds as they celebrated the birth of their first child, George Alexander Louis.
First and foremost duty of the heir to the throne is to secure the line and the heir in waiting. Along comes George. And, duty done.
We were seeing moments in history reflected from the moment Princess Diana and his father stepped out on the steps of the Lindo wing with baby William in their arms. And now to see him do the same with his son, George. This was a new chapter and the start of their growing family.
William gave his first interview since becoming a father to CNN. It provided a warm and personal insight into this life-changing moment.
I think I was on such a high anyway, and so was Catherine, about George, that really we were happy to show him off to whoever wanted to see him. As any new parent knows, you're only too happy to show off your new child and, proclaim that he's the best looking or the best everything.
I think at that stage we didn't really know what kind of dad he was going to be. I think a lot of commentators thought it would be a lot like his own childhood and upbringing at Kensington Palace. We all miscalculated. He had an entirely different idea of the kind of father and parent he wanted to be.
He's got her look, thankfully.
No. In his interview with CNN, William made public how challenging he finds baby George's lively nature and also made it crystal clear he plans to be a hands-on dad.
Well, yeah, he's a little bit of a rascal, let's put it that way. So he either reminds me of my brother or me when I was younger, I'm not sure. But he's doing very well at the moment. He does like to keep having his nappy changed. And
you did the first nappy, of course.
I did the first nappy, yeah, exactly.
Badge of honour.
Well, it's a badge of honour, exactly. I wasn't allowed to get away with it. I had every midwife staring at me going, you do it, you do it.
I doubt very much that his father, Charles, changed the first nappy, but William was here representing the next generation, and I think had he not been changing nappies, he'd have had a lot of women to answer to.
Where William will follow in his father's footsteps is helping George with the burden of the destiny that lies before him.
Prince George will really benefit from having Prince William as his father and as his guide into royal life. Prince William knows what it's like to grow up in this goldfish bowl, more so probably than anyone else. He's going to be brilliant at it for him.
William and Kate would go on to have 2 more children. Princess Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, born in May 2015, and Prince Louis Arthur Charles, born April 2018.
Prince William will definitely take a different approach to fatherhood than his own father did. Prince Charles was known to be quite cold and quite hands-off when it came to parenting. Prince William, certainly not that.
With all 3 now attending Lambrook Prep School in Berkshire, which is just a 15-minute drive from their Adelaide cottage home on the Windsor estate.
From what we've seen from George, Charlotte and Louis, he's very hands-on, along with Catherine, does the pick-up, does the drop-off, really wants to be there for his children.
It's clear that William's modern approach to fatherhood means that his children will not have to share their early years with the world's media.
You can see in their upbringing, the schools that they go to, the fact that William and Catherine are quite insistent on protecting them from the media glare. They're much more protective of their children.
I think William and Kate have put the happiness of the children above duty, where you don't have to go back too many generations where, in royal terms, duty was put above everything else.
Coming up, the prince protects the family honour.
Would you live together again? Must experience being insane?
Well, bearing in mind I cook him and feed him basically every day, I think he's done rather well.
As Prince Harry turns against the House of Windsor, forcing William to speak out.
Have you spoken to your brother since the interview?
No, I haven't spoken to him yet, but I will do.
This was a real break from the never complain, never explain mantra that the royal family had lived by. You could sense William was incensed.
Prince William next in line to the throne, an entire life defined by passion, honour and duty.
It's got her look, thankfully.
This is a prince who has made a real difference to the lives of everyday people right around the United Kingdom.
Sir, have you spoken to your brother since the interview?
No, I haven't spoken to him yet, but I will do.
And can you just let me know, is the royal family a racist family, sir?
No, we're very much not a racist family.
In March 2021, the prince gave a short but astonishing response to a journalist. He was forced into denying accusations of racism within the royal family, an extraordinary development which had its beginnings when William's brother, Harry, started dating an American actress.
I mean, Meghan coming onto the scene absolutely changed everything. The media frenzy around her was insane.
Harry had first met TV star Meghan Markle through a blind date, arranged by a mutual friend in July 2016. The couple had embarked on a whirlwind romance, with their every move creating headlines.
It was completely over the top. The papers wanted to basically go through every single thing she'd ever said or done, ever.
But the excitement towards the new royal couple soon turned sour, as they thought the media and the royal family were against them. Which led to Harry and Meghan shockingly stepping back as working royals and moving across the Atlantic, an acrimonious deal that was thrashed out amongst all the senior members of the royal family.
Reports say that the Duke of Sussex took part in a conference call from their home, Frogmore Cottage. Also on the line, the Queen in Sandringham, Prince Charles in Scotland, and Prince William at Kensington Palace.
I mean, in terms of the change that Meghan made to the monarchy, I mean, it couldn't have been more dramatic. I think people probably expected the change to be purely positive, and obviously the result has been a huge intercontinental conflict that, you know, at one point appeared to be shaking the monarchy to its very foundations.
And for William and Harry, this threatened to break an incredible bond forged in early childhood.
Got to try to do the piano.
There was a remarkable documentary, actually, a very, very personal one. In fact, it was called The Prince and Princess Wales Talking Personally with Alistair Burnett on ITN. Stars of the show were William and Harry bashing away on a piano, and we heard William talking for the first time.
Harry, what are you doing over there?
It's incredible, the footage that came out in 1985. Charles and Diana had allowed the cameras in, and I think they wanted to show a different side to themselves and to family life.
It's a very enchanting documentary.
Harry! Put on his head first. Harry, no! He's trying to do my hand off. Harry, stop doing it. Ow! Harry!
Look, sit him on your shoulder.
Harry!
And these were William's first words on camera. I mean, he didn't say much, but he was going on for 3 years old at this point, and we hadn't heard him speak, but now we knew he got a voice too.
The intimate scenes also gave the first glimpse into the closeness between William and baby brother Harry.
It's a lovely little vignette that we get in this ITN interview and documentary, and you can just see the boys playing together and a bit of mischievousness between them.
What do you say?
One more kiss.
One more kiss, please. Steady.
Go.
It's very charming to see. Well, it's sad as well to see how beautifully they got on in those early years and all that's happened since.
Get this on camera. You forgot your boots.
Oh my god, that's another classic.
Here, borrow my ones that Mark has got. Here. Borrow that one. That should fit.
That's just about the stupidest thing I could have done.
Whether it was hanging out at the polo or just being there for one another, the two princes clearly had a special connection.
He is the one person on this earth who I can actually really, we can talk about anything and we understand each other and we give each other support and everything's fine.
I think it was around the time of Harry's 21st birthday. He was speaking about the warmth, the depth of the relationship between him and his big brother.
Really, William was quite a supportive, something between a father and a brother. He was the sort of older guiding light for Harry and offered him advice that actually Harry gladly took.
And they both know, or they knew at the time, that whatever got said between them, nobody would go to the papers. They know nothing is going to leave that room.
These two men had been through the most unique experience, losing their mother, being princes for the British royal family, and really they were bonded for life by that. And at the time, we thought nothing would ever break them apart.
They captured the public's attention, but as they spent more and more time together, they also became increasingly valuable to the PR strategy of the palace.
They would do everything together. So you quite often see them together at Highgrove, you'd see them in town together, you'd see them at the pub together, and I'd go in there for a drink in the evening, walked up to the bar, and suddenly I had somebody call my name, and I turned around and it was William with Harry and their friends. And I remember thinking, okay, that's pretty cool. William just called me, and I went over and said hello to them and said hello to their friends. It was just nice just to see how not only down to earth and normal they are, but also they didn't ignore me. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I'm there working for them.
At the time, the whole nation, but also the royal family, really, the aides around them, they really wanted to encourage this idea that these were the two brothers. They came as a pair. They were the youthful, dynamic, fun end of the royal family.
These were Diana's boys. Clearly, the future of the monarchy depended, let's face it, on the shoulders of these young men. And it was understandable that a forward-thinking royal family would want to promote that part of it which played well to the public, and that part of it was William and Harry.
To mark the 30th anniversary of the Prince's Trust, the first, second and third in line to the throne appeared together at their Highgrove home, giving a rare glimpse of the bond and intimacy between them.
So William and Harry sat down for their first ever joint interview with their father plonked in the middle for a chat with Ant and Dec. And it's just so fun to watch because the banter is on full display here.
Do you have quite similar music tastes, the two of you, or are you quite different in taste of music?
We're quite similar.
Varies a bit.
I'd say his was pretty shocking, but mine was
Oh, really?
But apart from that, we tend to like pretty much the same music.
Yeah. These two, so you play this stuff and I'm sitting there going, downstairs somewhere, it's a whole place.
It's just like houses up and down the country.
Yeah.
Turn that racket down. Yeah.
This is such a classic William and Harry interview. William loves to kind of like get a little cheeky dig in at Harry, but it's all very good-natured. And then obviously Charles lends the classic parental response to all of it. Probably can't even tell whether it's Harry's music or William's.
I think it tells us a lot about Charles, who had done this remarkable job as a single parent. One has the feeling that central to everything in Charles's life were William and Harry. And for William and Harry, their father was everything to them.
By 2009, William and Harry couldn't have been closer, training alongside each other as military helicopter pilots.
Definitely got more brains than me. I think we've established that from school. But when it comes to all that, I think I'm much better hands-on.
When you find so
baldness, sorry.
Pretty rich coming from a ginger, so I'm quite happy to take that on this one. Yeah. Peter's a good-looking ginger, it's all right.
Peter's both.
Well, it's something like a comedy Top Gun scene, this, isn't it? Two brothers having a bit of banter, a bit of needle between them, I think, of one sort of digging the other out and then the other one shooting back. And there is a bit of competition there as well. We can imagine what the royal press officers were doing just off camera. They would have been absolutely shocked, thinking this is not going to plan.
It probably did kind of show that there is a bit of, I wouldn't say tension, but there's competitiveness between it. They've always been competitive, 100%. Of course there is. You know, it's a brother thing.
William and Harry also spoke about the joys of bunking up with each other at the military base.
First and last time we'll be living together.
It's been a fairly emotional experience.
And would you live together again? It's much experience being in the same...
Well, bearing in mind I cook him and feed him basically every day, I think he's done rather well.
He told us the other week that he did all the washing up.
He does do a bit of the washing up, then he leaves most of it in the sink and then it comes back in the morning and I have to wash it up.
Oh, the lies.
I think the difference there is it's very much them just on their own. Where with the other royal homes, if they do leave the dishes in the sink, myself or someone else is going to come along and wash it up. Of course we are. But in that environment, there isn't anybody else. And I think William can be quite strict with his brother, making sure that he does the tidying up or laying the tables, whatever.
Whilst Harry would go on to serve 2 tours in Afghanistan, William completed his service as a search and rescue pilot in the RAF. Outwardly, at least, the prince's relationship seemed to go from strength to strength, with William joining Harry alongside his wife for many of their public campaigns.
When they were threesome a lot of the time on the world stage, it always felt like the sort of ultimate powerhouse to have all 3 of them at an event or talking about a particular issue. At the time, we all thought that William and Kate and Harry would continue their work on the world stage together, and when Harry met someone, that person would come in and they would be a foursome. And at the time, you couldn't have imagined that things would have played out any other way.
With Meghan now coming onto the royal scene, it wouldn't take long for this foursome to materialise, especially with the couple announcing their engagement after just over a year of dating.
It's been quite whirlwind romance, so everybody's slightly holding their breath to see, but I think the shared interests is what's going to ground them.
Meghan was officially set to join the firm, and her first opportunity to team up with her fiancé and her prospective brother and sister-in-law on their campaigns soon arrived. William went the extra royal mile to make her feel welcome.
I remember sitting watching them all together, the Fab Four, at the Royal Foundation Forum, and they just seemed at first to be completely natural with each other, and it seemed like the absolute perfect, moment to celebrate this new generation of the royal family. We all expected it to be a story that had a very happy ending.
Catherine, Harry and I are delighted to be here this morning, and we're particularly happy to be at our first Royal Foundation event with Meghan. Today...
We didn't realise at that moment that it was going to be the only Royal Foundation Forum event where all 4 royals were there side by side.
Meghan's arrival promised to be the start of an incredibly exciting new chapter for the royal family. But despite the jovial atmosphere, there were already the first signs of tension.
Working together as family, do you ever have disagreements about things?
Oh, yes. Healthy disagreement.
Okay, the last thing you disagreed on, how do you resolve it?
I can't remember, they come so thick and fast. but is it resolved? We don't know.
Oh, we don't know.
Hearing them talk about having disagreements with each other at the time was jaw-dropping, and I remember trying to work out what to make out of it. Harry says they come so thick and fast, so it doesn't sound like this is the only disagreement, and William says, are they even resolved yet? So it doesn't sound great. And I remember thinking, like, there is something here, but you still don't know how big it's going to be.
Within 2 years of this appearance, and despite William being his brother's best man at the wedding, Harry and Meghan announced they would step back from being senior royals. Captured here, enjoying their new glamorous lifestyle in America, with this dramatic series of events leaving the brothers' relationship in ruins.
Harry ultimately thought that William had welcomed Meghan at first, but from William's side as well, he thought that Harry should slow things down, should really get a proper sense of who Meghan was and whether she was going to, fit the monarchy. Harry took that very badly and thought that he was trying to derail the relationship and felt that his brother wasn't supporting him and wasn't supporting his marriage.
But things were only set to get worse when Harry and Meghan gave an astonishingly candid interview to Oprah Winfrey, broadcast on CBS.
So we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? That conversation I'm never going to share.
This interview led directly to the remarkable moment William felt forced to speak out in defence of the monarchy.
Can you just let me know, is the royal family a racist family, sir?
No, we're very much not a racist family.
This was a real break from the never complain, never explain mantra that the royal family had lived by. You could sense William was incensed. He was not prepared to stand by and have the institution of the monarchy and his family members damaged in such a way by these allegations. There was no way that he was staying silent on this one.
This saw the start of a civil war within the royal family. Further admissions from Harry, including a scandalous memoir, suggested the fallout over Meghan was just a catalyst to ignite long-standing tensions between the brothers over their differing status. It even led to a physical altercation between the pair, something which was probed during an ITV interview with Harry.
My God, sibling rivalry. Have we not got past this yet? The whole heir versus spare thing? He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor.
And wouldn't your brother say to you, Harry, how could you do this to me? After everything we went through, wouldn't that be what he would say?
He'd probably say all sorts of different things.
Prince William has never directly addressed what he thinks of Harry's very personal disclosures.
William has kept his counsel, maintained a dignified silence, if you like. Aside from just one brief line reported by a friend to whom William apparently said, "I've put my arm around my brother all his life. I can't do it anymore. We are separate entities." That short phrase spoke volumes about the state of that relationship, the responsibility that William had felt, and that he could do it no more.
It suggested that the two brothers were no longer on the same wavelength, that William couldn't reach Harry any longer. All the things they had in common now seemed to have driven them apart. It really was Shakespearean in its scale, this tragedy of the broken brothers.
Coming up, William finds a new level of duty as first responder to real-life emergencies.
Nothing ever prepares you that well for what you're going to see and some of the incidences.
He saved my life. There's not more anyone can do for a person.
And William reveals his passion to make a life-changing effect on the nation's mental health.
Fair play to him. He's definitely pushed that door open and the floodgates have opened.
Prince William, a vocal figurehead of the modern monarchy, who stands firm against all the tests and trials that come along with his royal role.
Good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to be here this evening as the clear warm-up act for the rest of the night.
William as the future king and the face of that institution ultimately in the future, you know, the whole fallout and all of the difficulties, incredibly damaging and incredibly challenging.
Diolch yn fawr merig. Diolch von Wision. Mae'n bleser mawr bod yma. Rwy mor fawr o fod wedi byw ar Ynys Môn Mam Cymru. Rwy hyd yn oed wedi dysgu dipyn o Gymraeg.
William had come to the end of his service in the RAF and wanted to thank the people on the island of Anglesey, where he and his growing family had been based.
I have to say that I thought search and rescue duties over Snowdonia were physically and mentally demanding, but looking after a 3-week-old baby is right up there.
William hung up his military boots and was on the hunt for a civvy gig, something he could combine with the responsibilities of raising a young family and fulfilling his regal duties. What he landed was a job that would fuse the admirable qualities of our future king, bravery and compassion.
For the next major milestone in William's life came a pretty important announcement on Sky News. Here he was with helicopters in the background announcing that he was going to be an air ambulance pilot with East Anglia Air Ambulance, and he was pretty excited about this. He'd already been in the armed forces, but this was another opportunity to experience a different side of life than the one he'd been born into.
It's been many exams and training to get here, and I'm hugely excited to be joining a very professional bunch of guys and girls doing a sort of unique, complex job with the air ambulance. It just follows on from search and rescue to here, so it was a natural progression.
William may have been well qualified for the position, but that didn't mean that it wasn't highly unusual for a future king to be choosing this path.
Well, of course, Charles served in the armed forces. He was a naval officer, but he didn't have a job like William, you know, a civilian job.
Well, he checked with his father first, if that was the thing. If his father said, do it, you know, why not? Well, because he'll be doing this royal job for the rest of his life. And he wanted to do something else.
And I think it was a way of him sort of being able to look other people in the eye, knowing that one day when he is king, he's actually done not just a normal job, he's done a really, really important job.
In his revealing Sky News interview, the prince discussed his strategies to cope with the trauma he would witness and deal with the emotional impact thereafter.
Are you mentally prepared for some of the things that you'll have to face, those difficult and traumatic things that you'll come across in this job?
I think nothing ever prepares you that well for what you're going to see and some of the incidences. But having done search and rescue before, we saw a lot of that already. And when you're working with a team, you help each other out and you talk about it, and you get through it that way.
Well, this is not William just going off to be a banker or to be an explorer, working charity. You know, this was an intensely important, intensely pressurised job for William. You know, he was not just sort of box ticking or back at base. He was flying helicopters to major serious incidents. The things that he saw on accidents especially were particularly harrowing.
October 2015, a time that will be etched into William's memory. The prince was one of the first responders to a major collision. Carpenter Jack Beaton, just 17 at the time, was being driven home from work by his uncle Philip when their van was involved in a crash with a lorry. Tragically, his uncle was killed instantly. Jack was touch and go. Prince William had a vital role in keeping him alive.
I was so hands-on from the second they got me out. Everybody was around, and William was doing the collapsed lungs, so he was inflating and deflating their lungs. You can obviously imagine I was in a very bad way, and it's why William had to be hands-on. He had no choice. He saved my life. There's not more anyone can do for a person. That's up there.
After 140 days in hospital and over 27 operations, Jack recovered from his extensive injuries.
During the accident, I broke my elbow down to my legs, my back, my pelvis, my jaw. I sustained some brain injury. I had bruising to the heart and collapsed lungs as well.
Jack's girlfriend wrote to William, thanking him for helping to save her boyfriend's life, and later they received a response, inviting them to Windsor Castle.
It's lovely to be able to say thank you again, and just to be able to see the team catch up. It's been a long while since I last see him, and it's been lovely to see William, to be able to shake his hand and thank him for what he'd done for me that day. He's just such a genuine bloke. He's just going to be a good king. He's going to be my mate as well.
William was now well served rescuing those in need, but his desire to help didn't stop there. He was now a man on a mission to fix Britain's mental health, something he managed to combine with his personal passions.
As you know, Aston Villa is very close to my heart, including the colours, and I'm really delighted to be here today.
The Prince's long-standing love for the beautiful game inspired him to find new ways to create awareness of his Heads Together charity.
Football is followed by roughly 16 million people in this country. And if we can use the power of sport, use the power of football, bringing people together to have a really big conversation on mental health, then that can only help people who are still struggling.
As part of the Premier League's Heads Up campaign on Sky Sports, William brought pro players together for some intimate and funny banter.
Obviously, it's a huge honour to be invited here with royalty and the Duke.
How did I even get invited? I don't know, I used to be quite good at football, so maybe that was a reason. No, genuinely, I've spoken a lot about like my past troubles with like drinking and issues around family and those type of things. So I think maybe my speaking out got me the invitation to that.
The Prince gathered the players for the intimate and revealing Sky Sports Premier League broadcast to generate positive conversations around mental health.
We're all trying to be very P's and Q's and make sure we got everything right. But William was fantastic. It was like sitting there with like one of your cousins. He was just a nice person that was able to diffuse a situation.
Oh, what a question to pick up. How's the season going so far for you and your team?
Brilliant.
Our season's been very difficult. Personally, obviously being injured and being out for 4 months and coming back to a team that's in the relegation zone obviously has not been ideal. But I've been picking up of late, and naturally to score against Villa was a good situation for me.
Obviously he's a Villa fan. I'm from Birmingham, I'm a Birmingham City fan. So, I don't know, it just felt natural to do it, and I clearly just scored. I just felt like I was talking to a mate. I did.
Coming up, in moving and historic scenes, the Prince's ultimate duty comes ever closer.
Oh, we can only imagine what is going through William's mind at this moment as he sees his father crowned. So much history, but also his destiny laid there before him.
And William's royal resolve comes under intense pressure.
The King reveals he's being treated for an enlarged prostate just after news that the Princess of Wales has had surgery that will keep her away from public duties.
Prince William, the future king. A life sculpted through passion, honour and duty.
To build the momentum around mental health and to be able to talk about it more freely and more openly, we needed to use a vehicle that had huge power and huge potential, and we realised football has got that.
This is something that he was born to do, you know, to help other people. It's something that he feels intently passionate about.
But on the 8th of September 2022, William had to focus on his own mental trauma as he and the country went into mourning with the Queen's passing, ending her 70-year reign.
Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in British history.
The death of Queen Elizabeth II was a seismic moment for the nation, the end of an era. For William, He had lost his beloved grandmother, someone with whom he had such a close bond, someone who had taught him so much about his future role. And that future role was put into sharp focus.
The coronation of King Charles at Westminster Abbey the following year saw William, now the direct heir, pay homage to his father.
Oh, we can only imagine what is going through William's mind at this moment as he sees his father crowned. So much history, but also his destiny laid there before him, that one day this will be his moment. One day it will be George there before him as his heir.
In the BBC's coverage of the coronation concert, we saw William pay tribute to the late Queen, honouring her memory as the crown now passed to her son.
As my grandmother said when she was crowned, coronations are a declaration of our hopes for the future. And I know she's up there, fondly keeping an eye on us, and she'll be a very proud mother.
Just a year and a half on from the Queen's death, and William would face further heartache, testing his royal duties and family responsibilities like never before.
Welcome back. Now, if you're just joining us, Buckingham Palace has released a statement revealing the news that Prince Charles has been diagnosed with cancer.
The shocking news that William's father was being treated for cancer at the London clinic only intensified with a further announcement that his wife was at the same hospital having major abdominal surgery.
The King reveals he's being treated for an enlarged prostate just after news that the Princess of Wales has had surgery that will keep her away from public duties.
At this stage, William has the weight of the world on his shoulders. His father is ill, his wife has undergone major surgery, and what we don't yet know is that she is to be diagnosed with cancer, a moment that will change their lives forever.
Despite two of the people closest to him being ill, William bravely returned to duty. He appeared calm and composed during a speech for a London air ambulance event, attended by some rather famous guests.
Straight off, William addressed his current situation. He even made a joke of it, knowing that everyone in that room was desperate for a sign from him of how his father and Kate were doing.
I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you also for the kind messages of support for Catherine and for my father, especially in recent days. It means a great deal to us all. It's fair to say the past few weeks have had a rather medical focus, so I thought I'd come to an air ambulance function to get away from it all.
He could have cancelled that dinner, but I think what was apparent was that whatever was going on at home, there was still that commitment to duty.
Within just weeks, the full brevity of the situation William was facing was revealed, as the Princess of Wales made a sobering announcement via social media.
In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present.
The news that his wife was suffering from cancer, that his father was suffering from cancer too, a sort of double diagnosis in a matter of weeks, is going to be a huge blow to anyone.
It is just about 4 weeks since his wife made her cancer announcement, and after an Easter break with Kate and their 3 children, Prince William was on public duty today.
William was under huge amounts of pressure. He very much kept to his royal duties as much as he could. He was an important part of keeping the royal show on the road.
In September 2024, there was finally some more positive news. The Princess of Wales released a video announcing that she had reached the end of her chemotherapy treatment.
As the summer comes to an end, I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment.
It was posted on their Instagram account and was a beautiful, intimate family portrait. It was William and Kate and the children as we had never seen them before. Affectionate together, hugging, kissing, lying on the grass.
That video also showed William as a loving father, as a loving husband, and very much there, very much present.
I can't have you here. Our audiences would want to know how your wife is. It's been a tough year for you. How is the Princess?
She's doing really well, thanks, and hopefully she's watching tonight and sort of cheering me on. But no, she's been amazing this whole year, and I know she'll be really keen to see it tonight be a success.
The Prince of Wales, born to be king, and a man who, through his regal words, has grown from fledgling prince to the figurehead of a modern monarchy.
Thank you all very much for allowing me to address you today at your annual meeting, which I hear was changed specifically to accommodate me, so I do apologise for your diaries.
Through his speeches, through his interviews, through his interactions with the public, throughout his whole life, William has been preparing for his most important role.
I think we'll see in his reign that he'll do away with quite a lot of the old stuffy tradition because it just isn't who he is. I mean, he believes in the monarchy, he believes it has a purpose in modern society, but I think he knows with that comes the need to evolve and to modernise.
William has forged his own path and is set to be a king like no other.
I think we've already seen that with how William is approaching royal duties, and indeed Kate. They're concentrating on a handful of key issues which are important to them.
Social issues like homelessness, like mental health. He's determined to make a difference.
Today we're here to say thank you. Thank you to everybody.
You know, it sounds corny that he wants to make Britain a better place, but I think he genuinely does.
Through his passion, honour and duty, William has shown all the qualities needed to become our head of state.
The way that he has knuckled down to his responsibility of being a future king, being Prince of Wales.
I'm always striving for more and being more ambitious, particularly when it comes to such an important topic.
His mum was the people's princess. Will William be the people's king? Well, the signs so far, he's normal, he's relatable, he has the common touch. It is all pointing towards someone who will be a very different force on the throne.